Hey there, it's Diane Forster, and welcome to I Have Today, where we talk about the art of intentional living. And this is going to be a very powerful show today. So I want to make sure that you watch this and you rewatch this and you ping a few people, alert a few people, because we are talking about elderly care and the care of aging parents today. I've got a fantastic expert with me in the studio today. She's coming up very shortly. Her name is Pamela D. Wilson. She's a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker offering support to family caregivers, professionals, and organizations through her business. And she's got quite a resume and a lot of valuable information that you are going to want to take heart with today and heed her advice and start implementing this in your life right now. Because here's the deal. 1.3 million people are living in nursing homes, and there are over 810,000 people who reside in assisted living facilities. Now, here's the kicker. The costs can range anywhere between $4,000 and $9,000 a month. And so that is a very small percentage of the people who are actually in these nursing homes and assisted living. A lot of people can't afford it. A lot of people don't know what resources there are out there for them. And so they're taking this on themselves, and it's causing a strain to them and stress to them. And especially you, if you're watching my TV show, I know who you are. I know you are a woman who is in her life dealing with a lot of things. You may even still have kids at home, and now you're dealing with aging parents on top of it. You're right in the throes of the sandwich generation. And even if you're not, this is coming. And I wanted to bring this on today because, of course, it's happening in my world. I'm seeing this happen in my world. I'll get into that a little bit later. And so I wanted to bring Pamela Wilson here today to talk about some of these things and how you can really navigate this time with grace and dignity, and you can be armed with the knowledge of the resources that are available for you, and you can start being proactive in your life, not just for your elders and aging parents, but for your own health and well-being. It's not too soon to start thinking about this. So it's going to be a very, very powerful show today. So if you are here for the first time, I want to say welcome to I Have Today. It is so great to have you here. And this show is all about letting you live to your highest, greatest, fullest potential. We're about empowering, inspiring, and educating you to make changes in your life right now where no other circumstances have to be different than they are. You can start implementing and taking instant, inspired action in your life right now to be living a better, happier, more fulfilling life. So, and if you've been here before, I want to say welcome back. Thanks so much for being here. We are streaming live right now on E360 TV, on YouTube, on Facebook, on LinkedIn, and on Twitter. And for those of you who prefer to listen to podcasts, this is also available on all the podcast platforms. So wherever you're watching or listening, thank you so much for being here. Okay, now before we get into our interview with Pamela, I want to share with you this week's intention statement. And our intention statement this week is, I have today to treat everyone and be treated with dignity and grace. With dignity and grace. And it is about you and everyone else in your life. Oh my gosh. All right, Julie, I see you over there. You'd love to receive a recording of this discussion since you can't attend the entire event. All right. Well, it will be available for replay. So make sure you go to my YouTube channel. I Have Today with Diane Forster. You can catch the replay there, or on social media at Diane Forster Official. It's available on all the platforms, including the one that you're on right now. So thanks so much for being here. All right, so with our intention statement, what we do is we give you something to sink your teeth into for an entire week, all right? And that's what this intention statement is. And oh my God, my palm is itchy, which means my mother's here and money's coming. If you guys know anything about me, you know how woo-woo I am. So with the intention statement, what I want you to do is I want you to hop on over to my Instagram page at Diane Forster Official. And on that page, you will find a button that says intention statements. It's right there. And when you click on the button, the intention statement will pop up. And what I want you to do with that is take a screenshot of it and use it as your screensaver for the whole week, because how we make change in the subconscious mind is through repetition. And so if you're looking at that every time you look at your phone over 1,000 times a week, it'll start to get ingrained and you'll start to see that it'll be the reminder that you need. And then all of a sudden you'll be living that way. So check it out. And if you're not following me there on Instagram, when you go over there, if you feel called to, give me a follow. We have all kinds of good stuff in my link there. And it's always inspiring and empowering and motivating. So, all right. So I'm about to bring Pamela up, but I just wanted to share a story with you about something that just happened in my personal life. I'm going to try and do this without getting emotional. I went back east last week for a funeral and for my beautiful niece's bridal shower. The bridal shower was planned, and my first cousin passed away. He was 60 years old. He got sick with cancer, and he fought valiantly with such grace and dignity. Talk about grace and dignity, and had a very short window of time with a very, negative prognosis. And 3.5 years, he bravely battled his condition, and he really got a lot out of his life. These last 3 years, he really just lived every single moment the I Have Today way with vim and vigor and vitality and amazing attitude and great energy. But it was too much for him. And he is the first cousin, so the first of this generation on both sides of my family to have passed away. And it really hit home with me that we are now, I'm now the age, in this group where our generation is now dying. And I just lost my aunt 2.5 weeks before that. So it's been a very emotional time in our family's life right now. And while we were there celebrating the wedding that's coming up, and yes, life does go on, it was really, really a sobering, somber moment for me about how precious life is. And I already know this, I teach this all the time. Like your life is right now. All you have is today. It's all you're guaranteed. Don't put off things. Say yes to your life. Be empowered in your life. Go after your goals, dreams, and desires in your life, because you do not know when your last day will be. This is the only day that you're promised. And so, it got me thinking about how are more ways that I can serve my audience, my clients, my customers, and empower them with information. Because, when I find a resource, I bring it here. When I get, I give. When I learn, I teach. I want to share with you so that you have every available tool and resource in your life right here on this TV show. So that's why I'm bringing Pamela today, and she's going to blow you away with the information she has. So I hope you have pen and paper in hand, and like Julia, who's here, who can't be here for the whole thing, go back and watch this. Watch the recording of this. Watch the replay of this again. And again, share this out. Get this to as many people as you can, because like I shared, 7 out of 10 people will require assisted living in their lifetime. 70% of the people that are going to need this information. So let's spread the word. All right. So we're getting ready to bring Pamela up here on stage with me. But before we do, let's hear a word from our sponsor, the Spifter. This week's episode of I Have Today is brought to you by the Spifter. The Spifter is a fun sifting spoon that makes cooking, baking, and decorating with sugars and spices so much fun. No more mess or wasting your spices. It's fast, clean, and easy. Everything looks and tastes delicious. It's also great for straining loose tea, getting pesky broken cork out of your wine glass, and draining liquid off food like olives and capers. Whether you're a novice cook or a gourmet chef, you'll love the results. The Spifter, the kitchen gadget that no kitchen should be without. Well, hello, Pamela Wilson. How are you?
I am good, Diane. How are you?
I'm so great. I'm so happy to have you here today and have this conversation together. Really, really is so important, so needed right now. Yes. Well, let me tell the audience a little bit about you, and then we'll jump right in. So Pamela D. Wilson is a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker, and she's based in Denver, Colorado. For more than 20 years, she has supported older adults and caregivers in the role of care manager, professional fiduciary, and subject matter expert. The Caring Generation podcast is her show, and she answers all your questions from caregivers on her YouTube channel there. And she's also an author of The Caregiving Trap, Solutions for Life's Unexpected Changes, and the creator of an online course supporting care for aging parents. All right. So Pamela, there's way more to you than that. You've been doing this for a long time. How did you become an expert at what you do?
A lifetime of experiences. So very interesting. When I was a young child, I was the youngest of 6 kids. And because of that, my mother took me to go visiting. We would visit grandpa and we would visit aunts and uncles. And I was around older people and I loved them and they doted on me, right? So that was a positive experience. Then going through my life, my oldest sister was killed in a car accident when I was 17 years old. Fast forward, my mother began becoming ill when I was in my teens and my 20s. I was the person who used to take her to the emergency room on Sunday nights because I was available. Both of my parents passed away within 4 years of each other, and my oldest brother, who came home for my father's funeral, was diagnosed with leukemia, and he died within the year. So all of these losses were a blessing, right? It was a blessing to detour me from working in corporate America and consumer products to helping people. And the way that I became an expert is really 20 years of living not only as a family caregiver, because I took care of my mom, but being responsible for the care of disabled and elderly people in places like hospitals and nursing homes, and doing hospice care and bearing them and managing their finances. I've been fortunate to be in situations that are extremely unique that most people will not experience, but that gives me the knowledge to help caregivers who find themselves in those situations.
Amazing, truly amazing. So what do we, let's talk about this, because these statistics are crazy. When you think about it, as I was doing this research and looking it up, and the numbers it's about a little over 3% of people who are living in nursing homes and assisted living. Meanwhile, we know that the number, so that means the rest of them are at home and they're being cared for by their loved ones, right?
They are being cared for their family members who technically are providing an assisted living or a nursing home level of care in the home.
Yes. So how can we help them navigate this? Because part of the reason I wanted to have this and talk about this was, dealing with this with dignity and grace and compassion, and obviously for those that they're caring for, but for themselves too during this time. So what are some of the things that you've seen happening in these situations with all your 20 years experience in dealing with all of these families?
Well, let's talk about the dignity aspect. So the best thing that anyone can do for themselves or the person that they care for is to have the very gut-wrenching conversation about, what do you want for your care? What extensive measures do you want? Where do you want to live? Who do you want to be your caregiver? And then the very difficult one is, have you saved money to pay for care? Because when you know and you understand what someone wants for care, you can make that happen. And there's less disagreements in families between children saying, oh no, mom would have wanted this. No, she wouldn't. You avoid these arguments when these discussions are held, but they're difficult to initiate because nobody wants to talk about being sick or needing care or dying.
Mhm. Yes. Okay. We're getting a little bit of feedback. I'm not sure what that is, but those are the difficult questions, and they're so important. They're so important. I remember a few years ago, my twins, who are in their mid-20s now, but at the time they were in college, and I had them over, and I had them sign my living will. And they did not want to talk about it. And I said, no, 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 we absolutely have to talk about this. I don't want any stress or confusion about what to do. I'm spelling it out for you. I'm making it crystal clear to you that these are my wishes. These are my wants. And I think it's so good that you said, have you saved money for care? Huge, huge, huge. Because as we know, most of Americans, obviously this show is global, but huge majority of the audience are watching it here in the US, that most people are living paycheck to paycheck, and they don't have the resources for this. So how do we address that? What are the options for putting a plan together so that funds are available for care if and when the time comes?
Part of the plan is what you mentioned at the beginning of the show, understanding how expensive care is, whether it's bringing a caregiver into the home or assisted living or nursing homes, and then understanding how the healthcare system works and how Medicare works, because everybody believes that Medicare pays for everything once you turn 65. And that belief is kind of fueled by the fact that when we work, many people have insurance through their employer, right? You
Yep.
pick A or you pick B. And
Mhm.
you don't have a lot of choice, and you don't realize that there are choices. Well, with Medicare, there are a lot of choices, but you also have to realize what it doesn't pay for. It does not pay for the care that family members provide. It doesn't pay for the things that most people need, like somebody to go pick up their prescriptions or somebody to help them bathe if they're having difficulty at home, or somebody to take them to a doctor appointment. And so the things to know are the costs, but then for caregivers, it's also, if you become involved, what is the cost to you? What time are you trading from your career or from your marriage or from your children or from your personal life? And so that's why you want to have the realistic conversations with your parents, because some parents have the expectation that their children are going to fly across country and take care of things. Other parents, because maybe they've taken care of their parents, are like, I'm not putting you through this. Kind of like the conversation you had with your daughters. You need to know what I want,
Mhm.
So then you've got to maybe look at Medicaid or other forms of assistance to pay for care, which if you're working and you have access to long-term care insurance, definitely something you should look into.
Yes. Yeah, long-term care insurance is something that most people don't really put a whole lot of attention to, and they should. Uh, yes, wow. Okay. What are some of the challenges you've personally experienced over the years? I mean, and by the way, my heart goes out to you. I'm sending you so much love. Like, you've had so much loss in your life, and
It was a blessing, though. It was a blessing. I would not be here today, and I would not be able to help people to the degree that I can if I haven't experienced what they're about to experience that they have no idea and they're unprepared for. It was a blessing.
what an attitude. I love that. I love that, Pamela. So, so what are some of the questions that you seem to get a lot? Based on your show, you're answering a lot of questions. What are the questions that people are asking, so we can arm people now with that information so they can start thinking about this?
One of the biggest worries is, how do we pay for care if my parents don't have money and if I don't have money? And the answer to that is, today, if there are going to be money issues that you know of, start investigating what's called Medicaid. Now, it's different by state. In California, it's called CalAIM, it's called Medi-Cal. But every state has a program for low-income elderly. And it applies to younger people, but right now we're just talking to people over 65. So investigate what services that program offers. Investigate the financial parameters around that. So parents have to first spend their assets on their care. And then when they run out of funds, they can apply for Medicaid. But what does that pay for? Does it pay for caregivers to come into the home in your state? Will it pay for assisted living care? Will it pay for nursing home care? So the more that you arm yourself with an understanding of how to pay for care, then that checks one box off. There are other boxes like, how do I deal with the stress, and what about the healthcare system that we can talk about? But investigating Medicaid and knowing what it pays for can save you a lot of time and worry.
Yes. How early in life should people be doing this?
I would do it immediately. If you are a caregiver caring for somebody, you want to look at the experience kind of like creating a business plan for your parent or the person you care for, and at the same time, do it for yourself. So get all the knowledge on the table, find out what they want for care, what they don't want for care, create a plan so that when something unexpected happens, because there will be that heart attack, there will be the stroke, there will be the fall down the steps. You're not scrambling at that point trying to figure out what to do. You say, we have a plan. We're going to do A, B, or C.
Mm-hmm. So good. So good. Okay. Well, let's talk about like where this is going, because the population is increasing. It's what I read here is that that the population of people over 85 is going to double by 2036, so in the next decade, and then it's going to triple by around 2049. So the generations are, the number of people who are living longer. This is what's happening, right? They're living longer, which means they're going to require care longer as well, right? So, I mean, what do we do now to sort of stall that? I mean, what are other things that you've seen, work? Is it diet? Is it exercise? Is it, therapy? Is it, other things that we could be doing as a whole in aiding and assisting our aging parents to maybe not need as much care as we think? Because my dad's 85 years old, and he golfs every week. He has a dance class every week. He's got a social life. He travels all over the world. Now he's very active for, certainly his age, but he's got his things too. He's a veteran, so he spends a lot of time at the VA hospital, and he's got certain conditions and things going on in his life. And I want to see him as healthy as he can be for all the days of his life, however many, days, months, years, decades he might have left. So
the clients that I have known, and I've taken care of people of all ages and all conditions, the ones that seem to age more successfully have characteristics like your father. They are very physically active. So for older adults, the reason that people need assisted living care or that they go into a nursing home is due to needing help with what are called activities of daily living. And these usually come about because people are not physically active. They don't walk. They can't get up out of a chair. They've had a fall. And so what happens is, once you have one of those incidents, you're more afraid of a fall. So you don't walk as much. You're afraid to go out of the house. The more physically active you can be and the more socially engaged you can be, there are studies that this does amazing things for your life. But the problem is, if you become a caregiver, you give up all of that. You trade your exercise time, you trade your friends, and you trade your relationship to care for your parent, who also has become less mobile and more isolated. So you have two people who are in this relationship who are isolated and giving up all the good things that can keep them healthy. So for you as the caregiver, it's setting that boundary to say, you know what? My self-care, my self-improvement is non-negotiable.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And you have to find a way to help your elderly parents stay active.
Yes. Yeah, my cousin had a stroke a couple years ago, and his wife never leaves him ever. And that's got to be so hard on her too. She just won't do it.
Well, and there are statistics that show that sometimes the caregiver dies before the person that they care for
Yes.
because of the level of emotional and physical stress.
That is powerful. Wow. Okay. So tell us a little bit more about, now you covered the expenses part. You've covered the self-care part. Now let's talk about the dynamic of even the generation below. So here we are, the caregiver generation who's taking care of the, aging parents, the elderly, and then the generation below. That's going to have an impact on them as well, because they're witnessing what's happening. What have you seen in that dynamic? I mean, is counseling recommended, or, how does the whole family work in that dynamic?
I will use my mother, God bless her, as the example for this. So she was the model for me when I was young, right? She would take me to go see grandma because she'd be taking care of grandma, and we'd go see the aunts and uncles.
Yeah.
And she didn't hide anything from me. The first funeral I attended, I was 5 years old. My grandfather died. She took me to the funeral home. I talked to my dead grandfather. I touched his body. She was very upfront with me as a child, like you were with your children. There was a time where she's like, "Well, Pamela, I bought my and your dad's burial plan. It's all set." I did not want to talk about it. So it's being upfront with your children and making all of this caregiving a normal part of life and things that you talk about, even if they don't want to, so that they're not shocked. Now, there's also the other extreme, though, because there's something called adverse childhood experiences. And so these are situations where, let's say there's a caregiver taking care of, they move mom into the house and mom has Alzheimer's. And she has horrible behaviors and she's screaming and yelling, and the kids are scared to death. That can impact those children the rest of their lives. So to your point, there are times when you have to do family counseling sessions or talk about the fact that, we realize grandma can be difficult, but it's not grandma, it's the disease Alzheimer's. And so to bring more education into the home and to talk about these things so that children aren't afraid of grandma, or they don't think that this is what happens to everybody when they get old.
Yeah. Wow. Well, this is really fascinating, and I'm going to definitely be putting some plans into action. This was just so, as all these things were happening in my life, it was just like this, like, Diane, it's time to do a show on this topic. That's why I reached out to you and said, she's out there doing this and educating people and being, an expert and a voice for these people who are all going through this. And as I see this, my aunt and uncle are about to move into their assisted living place. And I didn't see that coming, but it's exactly where they should be. Right. And how to get all the plans together to do this. And it was just like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, I just had this realization, and I'm a pretty intentional person, and this is my show and the way I live, and it's very in the present moment. But I had such an awakening moment of the realization of how the age I am, because I don't say I'm old, I say I'm 59 years young and all of that. I'm very intentional with language and all of that. But it was just in my face looking at this going, look at how quickly this is going by and how instantly life can change. Even though I know that, oh, there, apparently I'm getting a thumbs up for whatever reason on the screen, but how instantly, of course we know this, life changes. It can change in a moment. It can change in a moment. But seeing it all in front of me, it was just kind of a lot. It was been a really, really emotional time. So when I feel like there's something like that, I definitely want to get, somebody in here to help us navigate through this, because like Julia was here and others who are watching this or listening to this now, they're taking in this information. Hopefully they're going to start implementing these plans together. And so let's do that right now. Let's run through a checklist of, this is the first thing you need to do, this is the second thing you need to do, and give them the actionable steps that they could take right now. So step number one is
to have the conversation in your family and with your parents, even if they're healthy. Mom and Dad, something could happen tomorrow. What do you want for your care so that we know?
Yes.
And then get into the medical part of, is it life-sustaining treatment? Do you have your legal documents? Do you have your medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, living will, and trust? And what do you want? Then you talk about the money. Have you planned? Do you have money to pay for care? If you haven't, it's okay. We need to look at other options, and what are those options? And then the one thing that we didn't talk about is navigating the healthcare system. So as the caregiver, you have to give yourself credit for what you know about the person that you care for, because the medical system treats everybody, and I hate to say this, but on the same par. Everybody who has heart problems is the same. Everybody who has Alzheimer's is the same. You are not the same. You have different needs. So if a doctor recommends something that you don't think is right, you've got to speak up, especially if you are that medical power of attorney. You have the right to disagree with them and say, no, I don't think that's right. I could tell you stories of doctors who wanted to not provide intensive care for my clients because they were old, or who didn't want to give cancer treatment, but my client wanted it. Because I was in that legal position and I knew very clearly what my clients wanted, I did it, and I advocated with those doctors saying, no, my client deserves to be in intensive care. They deserve treatment. This woman wants cancer treatment, so she has time to make amends with her family. You have to be the advocate in this relationship, which is very hard to do because it is so emotional. But that's, in addition to the practical steps of money, what do you want, the legal planning, all of that, it's really learning as much as you can so that you can advocate for your parent and advocate for yourself. Don't take anything at face value. Question it. Make sure that it's the right thing for your family so that you don't have regrets later.
Yes. That makes me so angry. Medical community is amazing, but you are not God. And everyone has the right to choose what their course of treatment is. Nobody gets to tell them what that is. It's their choice and their decision. Thank you for bringing that up.
They try. I mean, I hate to say it, but the healthcare is very biased against care for the elderly because they see them as on the way out, right? They see them as dying. They would rather treat a teenager who has the rest of their life in front of them rather than an older person who deserves the dignity and the care.
That's what we're talking about, the dignity and the grace. They've earned the right to be treated
with respect.
With respect. With respect. Yeah, that's another topic for another day. Okay, so that's have the conversation, be an advocate in the situation, both legally and medically, right?
Yes.
Okay, and then what else?
The other thing is to learn as much as you can about whatever's going on with your parents. So if you're that medical power of attorney, know what their diagnoses are, know what their medications are. And one way that you can do this is anybody over age 65 who has Medicare is entitled to an annual physical, and an advanced care planning session. Now, a lot of physicians don't even know that they can do this, but Medicare pays for it. Take your parents to those appointments, learn about their health, learn how one condition can relate to the next, and learn most of all what they can do to prevent, right, these conditions from getting worse, so that when they're 85, they're not, they're still able to walk about and do things. They're not totally disabled, because there's a lot of preventative stuff that the healthcare system is not going to tell you unless you ask. And sometimes it won't even pay for it, right? And I'm going to use, if we have time, I'm going to use a crazy example of like a colonoscopy, right? So
Yes.
nobody wants one. They're, if you've had one, you didn't like it, right? It wasn't a good experience. But so you see on TV, these commercials say, hey, you don't have to have a colonoscopy, just have this test, right? Well, what the test does is the test tells you if you have cancer. So by the time you take the test and you have cancer, it's a little too late. We're really good at treating sick people. We're not good at preventing sickness. But the problem is, so colonoscopies, if you have a deductible of $2,000, you may not want to get it, right? Because it's so expensive. So you delay. But what a colonoscopy does is it can detect polyps that are precancerous.
Yes.
And it can remove them before you have cancer.
My mother died of colon cancer. I'm very familiar with colon.
Sorry.
No, thank you. And my family and I have, since I'm 35, I started going for
Screenings.
colonoscopies. Yep.
Healthcare screenings, regardless of your age, your mammograms, all your well women exams, do not put those off, because that is the opportunity to catch things. And even more so, if you don't have a primary care doctor, get one so that you can go and have your blood work done and prevent all of these things from happening. Prevention is the key.
Yes, 100%. Do you have any non-medical, natural, I'm really into meditation and deep breathing and walking and journaling and, affirming and all of that. Is that anything that you recommend?
Totally. I've been doing transcendental meditation twice a day for forever, for as long as I can remember. And I spend time out in the woods. So caregiving is very stressful, right? To relieve that stress, you've got to find a place where you can go, something you can do every day that you just totally lose yourself in.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if it's cooking, or maybe you lose yourself in house cleaning, right? Or something outside. You have to feed your soul and your mind, because this is hard work. It's not easy, and not everybody can do it.
Yeah. And you know what else you have to do? You have to really listen to your intuition, your gut. If you're getting a diagnosis or a prescription or advice and it's just not feeling right, or if you're asking for something and you're being told no and that doesn't feel right, speak up again and get your advocates around you to speak up for you and be insistent about it. I remember I went to a new doctor a couple of years ago because I was searching for, I moved, from Chicago to San Diego, and I was looking for a primary care physician and in naturopath. And I remember I walked in and I sat down and she was sitting at her desk and she had a big computer in front of her with a big monitor. And she was very clinically, scientifically asking me questions. She never made eye contact with me. After about 5 or 10 minutes, I would say 10 minutes, I just got up and walked out. And she said, "Where are you going?" I said, "You're not the doctor for me." And she was like, what? And I said, "You haven't looked me in the eye once. Like, I'm sorry, but I want a doctor who actually has a bedside manner that I resonate with, and who actually cares about me as a person and not filling out a chart and a form. I'm not a statistic." And I just walked out the door. And it's being able to this is the point I want to make. Just because they went to medical school, and I'm not discounting their knowledge or anything like that, do not go against your gut instinct and your intuition. My lovely doctor, who told me I would never have children, and I loved him, and I know he tried everything, but he based everything on history and statistics and research, right? And everything, his decision was made on, like, oh, we've tried everything, was based on the past. What he didn't have, to take into consideration was my will and determination. And 15 months after that diagnosis he gave me, my son and daughter were born. So that's the message I want all of you to hear, that you are individuals. Your family dynamic is unique and special to you. The parents, the elderly that you're caring for are special people. They're not just aging out of life. You know, they deserve that dignity and grace, as do you. And trust that intuition and that gut instinct, right?
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because women by doctors are seen as more hysterical. We make up health issues. Women have heart attacks, right? Doctors, if a man comes in and says, oh my gosh, I'm having chest pains, right? The doc sends him to the ER. If a woman comes in and says she's having chest pains, it's like, oh, are you sure?
You're
You
right.
sure it's not something else? You sure
Right.
not feeling anxious? It's like women, and I will say people of color, are discriminated against in doctors' offices.
This is so informative and educational and eye-opening. I hope everyone who's watching and listening is getting their money's worth. I'm using air quotes, right? That your time is being invested right now with this information, and that you're being armed with it. Okay, let's see if there's any other steps, because you said have the conversation was number one. Even when you're healthy, do it now, and make sure that you have the legal documents, the medical documents, the financial conversation, all of that together. Then be an advocate in this situation. Don't take anything on face value. Make sure legally, medically, everything's handled, and then learn as much as you can about the diagnosis, about the medication, and that you ask a lot of questions. Be so curious, right?
Do not be afraid to ask questions. And the other thing is we're in Medicare annual enrollment right now. People do not know what Medicare is. They don't know that there's original Medicare. They don't know that there's Advantage plans. Your parents could be paying way too much for their medications or their medical care. There could be a better plan out there because the plans change every year. So my recommendation here is to write down, get a log of all their medical expenses this year. Are they paying more or less? Are they seeing the doctors they want to see? If not, investigate the plans and make a change. Don't feel like you have to accept, not being able to see this particular doctor because it's out of network. You might be able to find a better plan, or that they can't get this medication, or they have to pay more for this medication because it's not on the formulary. There's a lot of technicalities with health insurance that cause a lot of problems.
You just made me think of something, Pamela, that everything is negotiable. And the answer is always no if you don't ask. That you can be an advocate. You can have these conversations. And I love that tip. Get a log of the medications and the care that they've gotten this year and tally all that up. And look at that, and then start exploring. This is so great to know about. It's Medicaid, you said.
So Medicare, so people over 65 are on Medicare,
right?
And there's different versions of Medicare, and the drug plans that go with it. So Medicaid is for when people run out of money. It works with Medicare, but the Medicare plan can make a huge difference. And even so, let's say that there's a medication and it's $1,000 a month and you can't afford it, but you want it. A lot of the pharmaceutical companies have prescription assistance programs where you can get it for $10 a month. But again, if you don't seek that out, your doctor's office may not know. The pharmacy may not tell you. You've got to be the person who seeks out the information and the options.
So good. Pamela, this was a fantastic interview. Thank you so much for all this amazing information. I have two quick things for you, and then we'll share your link. The first one is, I ask all my guests this, and I want to know how you live the I have today way, which is intentionally in the present moment. And if you wouldn't mind, will you start your sentence with I have today too?
For me, I have today to make a difference in the life of another person. The question is, how am I going to do it? Am I going to do it through education? Am I going to do it by paying for somebody's groceries who are in line behind me? What am I going to do to make somebody's life better today? Because I can.
That is so beautiful. So beautiful. Thank you so much for that. And then what do you wish more people knew?
I wish more people knew and were educated about their choices that they can make regarding health and life and everything. Because sometimes we get into these ruts, we get into these patterns where we think, oh, this is the only way to do it. There are so many ways to accomplish things. And only when we get out of our mind, right? When we start asking our brain, what can I do? Do things start showing up? It's kind of like that reticular activator that you mentioned earlier.
Yes.
You're wondering about like Alzheimer's, and all of a sudden you start seeing Alzheimer's commercials, or you're wondering about, how do I exercise? And you're now seeing exercise bikes and things everywhere. You got to ask your brain to do the work, and the brain will bring those things into your consciousness.
100%. I could not agree more. I love that. Well said. And what a wonderful way to end this powerful interview. All right. So, what is your website so that people can find out more information about you, please?
So it's my name. It's Pamela, the letter D, Wilson.com, because there's a doctor out there, and I'm not the doctor. I'm me.
Yes.
And then my YouTube channel is Pamela D. Wilson, Caregiver Expert. So is my Facebook page. I have a Facebook group that people can join called The Caregiving Trap, which is the name of my book. A lot of free information out there because I want to empower people to have the information and the education to make change in their life and to know that they have choices.
So powerful. Well, we have links for all of that. We've had them here showing up on the banners, and they will be in the show notes. So it's PamelaDWilson.com, and go check her out, get her free resources, educate yourself, have the conversations, do all of that. And what we're going to do as I'm getting ready to wrap the show is we will have our live mantra meditation. I'm going to tie all of this together for you, and so that you can leave here feeling that empowerment and taking that inspired action in your life. Pamela, it was so lovely having you on the show today. Thank you so much for being such a gracious guest.
Well, and thank you for talking about this topic that makes people honestly feel uncomfortable and very uncertain.
Yeah, well, it was my pleasure. My pleasure. All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Oh, that was so good. I hope you guys got a lot of value about that. All right. So make sure you stay till the end. We have a few more minutes of the show because I am going to tie it all together with our mantra meditation and share some of this with you again, including the 4 steps that Pamela shared today. But before we do that, I want to just share with you what's going on here at I Have Today. I've got an event coming up in San Diego, California, November 30th through December 2nd, and it is called TV Host Maker Live. We are going to be doing our show live in front of a studio audience, and you, the attendees of the 3-day event, if you're interested in hosting your own TV show, come spend 3 days with me because I'm going to teach you everything you need to know to launch a brilliant TV show. And we're going to show you behind the scenes. We have fantastic surprise guests coming and so much fun. So we'll make sure to put a link for that because actually I don't think that's the link that we have today. But hey, team, if you can get that link so we can show it before the end of the show and post it there. But what I wanted to share with you is that if you've thought about having your own TV show, one of the great things that you can do is book a call with me. I have a free breakthrough session that I'm offering you where we'll get on the phone for 30 minutes, talk to me about your business, talk to me about your dream about becoming a TV show host, and let me take my 40 years in the industry and help you design a brilliant TV show to build your brand and credibility, to monetize and leverage it. And TV hosting is different than having a different channel here or that. It is an asset, and I will teach you all about the industry that is exploding right now, and it's such a good time to do this. So if you want to have that conversation with me and explore this, then I want you to go to, team, put up the link, tvstarhost.com/apply. Make sure you put in the www first. So it's www.tvstarhost.com caregivers.com/apply. And I cannot wait to have this conversation with you because being a TV host has changed my business. I can't tell you what a game changer it's been. And this could be the very thing that you need in your business next. So, all right, with that, we are getting ready to do our mantra meditation. And I see Pamela is still here. So I hope she stays and she enjoys this process because this is something that we do every week. I want you to leave this show feeling better at the end than you did at the beginning. And I hope you feel empowered and informed now in a way that you weren't before. And it's okay. Sometimes we have to have the quote unquote harder conversations to be prepared so that we are ready for whatever comes our way in life, right? We do not want the bad surprises. So what I'm going to do with you right now is if you're driving, obviously you cannot close your eyes. You can listen to what we're doing, but when you get home or when you park, you can watch this again. For everybody else, turn off your distractions. Do not be multitasking. Give me 3 minutes of your time. I promise you it will be well worth it because you're going to feel so, so, so good. So what we're going to do is we're going to do 2 rounds of breaths. The first breath we believe, and now I'm getting balloons. We breathe in for 4, and I want you to pull that air all the way down to your tailbone, which is where your root chakra is. And I want you to do that for the count of 4. And then I want you to hold it for 8. And as you're counting to 8, send energy to your 8 chakras, your root chakra, your sacral, your solar plexus, your heart, your throat, your third eye, your crown, and your soul star. That's where the Akashic records are. That's your portal to receive information. We want that lit up so that you can tune in that intuition that you need when you need it and really trust that gut instinct, okay? And then after we count to 8, I want you to blow it out for 8 seconds like you're blowing out birthday candles. Hard. Get all that air out of your abdomen. It'll feel like a deflated balloon. And that's so good because the visualization is imagine that any trauma, negative emotions or energy, memories that are not serving you are leaving your body. Okay, you are actually healing yourself when you do this. So we're going to do this 2 times. Don't worry, I'll walk you through it. And then just listen to the words. So here we go. Close your eyes, feet flat on the floor, hands on your lap. You can leave them facing down if that's grounding for you and you feel grounded, or you can turn them up, face up if you want to receive more energy. And let's breathe in for the count of 4. Hold it down in your tailbone as we send that energy to our chakras. Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Blow it out for 8. Releasing all that toxicity. Should feel really good. Let's do that one more time. Let's breathe in for 4. Pull it all the way down. And now count to 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And blow it out. I have today to love my life. Something really good is going to happen to me today. I can feel it. Miracles, big and small. I notice them all. Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. I have today to treat everyone and be treated with dignity and grace. I now am armed with the knowledge about my self-care and the care of others in my life, especially the elderly and aging parents. They deserve all the dignity in the world. They should be treated with that dignity and respect and grace. And I am going to choose to live empowered right now. I'm going to do Pamela's 4 steps. I'm going to have the difficult conversations, even though they might be hard. Talk about health. Talk about what we want in terms of lifestyle and end-of-life care. What are the legal documents that need to be handled? What's the medical coverage and how I want to handle that? Have we saved up enough money for that care? I'm also going to be that advocate for myself and for others in every situation. I am not going to take anything on face value because I am empowered with the knowledge, the wisdom, and the intuition, and I'm going to listen to my gut. I'm going to make sure that everything is taken care of, both legally and medically. And I'm going to be a sponge and learn as much as I can regarding the diagnoses, regarding the medication. I'm going to ask a lot of questions, and I'm going to be brave and not be afraid to speak up and be that advocate. And then I'm going to do the list and log all the medications, all the doctor's visits, everything that is costing money, and figure out what that is. And I'm going to learn about the options in Medicare. There's so many resources available that I'm probably not tapping into. That was such great advice. And I'm going to feed my soul and my mind every single day. I am going to nurture this beautiful vessel of my spirit, mind, and body every day and keep me healthy, my self-care, not just for me, but for the ones who are older than me and the ones who are younger than me and learning from me. This is a beautiful experience. It can be in so many ways, as long as I'm empowered. And I'm living empowered in this situation. I'm not afraid of this anymore. I'm not going to stick my head in the sand. I'm going to be open to the conversations and the information and choose wisely from a place of power. And so it is. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I want to thank my guest, Pamela D. Wilson, for being here today. I hope you got a lot of value out of this show. Don't forget, please follow me on social media at Diane Forster Official, the show at I Have Today with Diane Forster, and my website, dianeforster.com. That's it for today's show. Have a beautiful today. I'll see you next time. Take care. Bye-bye.